Oh, here we go. Here we are. Wow, I almost feel tall. There we go. So I have a very good long-term memory, and I get that not everybody does, but I used to give people a hard time for it because I would think that, like, if you don't remember things, what's the point of doing anything? You do something and then it just turns to dust. Like, why would you? But I get it. I mean, I understand nowadays, or I understand maybe at this age that people are wired differently. People remember different things. I don't take it personally anymore. But I remember being in third grade. I remember my third grade teacher. I remember it vividly. Mrs. Crum. Mrs. Crum was awesome. I know, funny name. She was awesome. She was very nurturing, very loving type of teacher. She was very big. She was maybe 300 pounds, and she had a tough time getting around the room. She breathed really heavily, but I loved her. Great teacher, and although her classroom management was a little, like, her discipline was, because I eventually became a teacher that I look back on my teachers and go like, no, that was good. My fourth grade teacher was Mr. Shermer, and kind of another funny name. Not as funny around here. It was more funny in Michigan, but there's like Shermer and, around here with all the John Hughes, thank you. I was going to say John Houston. It's not John Houston. So Mr. Shermer was just a straight arrow. He was a military guy. He was never mean to us. He never yelled at us, but his discipline was strict. Again, when I became a teacher and look back at him, I'm like, man, we got stuff done. We learned stuff. He was absolutely just it was perfect. It was great. He liked us. He was never mean to us. But we were made fun of by the other classes because he was kind of a dork. And I knew that at the time as a fourth grader. I was like, oh, we have a nerd teacher, total dork teacher. And Mr. Wilson's class would like go on Mr. Shermer's class and they'd give us a hard time, those assholes. And Mr. Wilson, I mean, this guy, this is the 70s. He's got his hair parted down the middle and he's all feathered like Sean Cassidy, and he wears jeans like real professional Mr. Wilson. And he'd play kickball with the kids. He was a good athlete. Well, guess what? Mr. Shermer's class kicked Mr. Wilson's ass in kickball, and then we won field day. So screw Mr. Wilson. Yeah. The hell with you guys. God, I hope they watch this on YouTube. Never happened. So maybe 20 years later, I'm now a substitute teacher, and I go back to my original school at Isbister Elementary in Plymouth, Michigan. Isbister, that was the name of it. Another funny name. So I get to go into the teacher's lounge, which, I only got peeks of before. Now I'm in there, and, of course, it's kind of a letdown. It's just a bunch of tables. Sad teachers and sad little lunches. But I go in there, and there's Mr. Shermer. I go right up to him like, oh my God, Mr. Shermer, it's me, Kevin Rheome, how are you? And, he doesn't remember me at all. And I get that, but it still hurts a little. It's still a little like, oh, did I even exist as a fourth grader? When somebody doesn't remember stuff the way you do, it's like, did it happen? And it's a letdown. So I realized that. I realized that, all right, fine. You get a lot of students through the years, but maybe if I think of something memorable, maybe he will remember that. And I'm like, oh my God, remember when Molly Perkiasta lost her mind and yelled at you and said, I'm not gonna do it, and that's final, mister, and then you put her out in the hall and she got 3 R's, which was like a demerit thing, these R's. Nobody got 3. 3 was huge. Everyone went, ooh, 3 R's. Like, I never even got an R. I never got 1 R. I got a lot of T's. T's were for talking. I got a lot of T's. I don't even know what R stands for. But when I tell him this, he's like, well, in my 35 years here it is, Mr. Elementary, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, he doesn't remember anything. His view of his past is just a giant gray blob of teaching achievement with no details in it, just a big thing. so I leave there, I finish out the day with students, and now the day is over, I'm in the classroom, and a woman comes in, she goes, I heard you were in the building. Mrs. Crumb, she's here. And in my head, I swear I heard myself say, I heard you were dead. I just didn't think she would have survived, but she lost all that weight. Her hair was brilliant. She had more energy than I did. She seemed younger than she did 20 years ago. She was awesome. She had taken like the early retirement, package, and then came back to substitute teach. I'm like, you remember me? Of course I do, Kevin. I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. So now let's test this. Number one, we're in the classroom that you taught me in. And she's like, of course, I know that. I'm like, do you remember Mark Merchant, like, tipped that table over here, went crazy, and then she goes like, oh yeah, his mom had to come pick him up. And I'm like, right. And then I was like, oh yeah, there was like 4 of those times that happened that year where like parents had to pick up the kid because they went ape shit. And I'm like, and there's the classroom management lack of discipline thing that was, the downside of Mrs. Crumb. And I told her, I said, I sat right about here, and I come from another school where we were just learning cursive. Like, my kids don't even know cursive. They don't teach cursive. So we were just learning it, but I come to this new school, and everybody already knows it. And so I sat here at this desk, and I'd look up at that strip above the chalkboard that was like the alphabet, and I taught myself cursive. And she's like, why didn't you say something? I don't know, I was in 3rd grade, I was little, I was just scared. And, but there you go. You feel like, I existed. What happened? Somebody remembered me. Thank you.